Don't look back. Don't regret. Time's falling.
Good afternoon. Actually, it's morning. I'm Dustin Feyder, author of the book Red Twilight. It is 11/23/14. This is another video log. Honestly, I have no intention of doing these on a daily basis, but my schedule permitted, so I figure I'm going to do one today. And because, for some reason at this point in my life, sitting here talking to my camera is more therapeutic to me than sitting and writing in my journal like I've been doing for the majority of my life. I just got back from my jog. It was a amazing morning, to be honest. At least as far as the weather is concerned. It's about 30 degrees and foggy here in Minnesota as of 9 a.m. even though I've been up since 4:30 and have no intention of sleeping again. So I've been on my new medication now for several days, and I'll tell you, it doesn't make the symptoms of depression go away. It just makes you feel numb. We got into an argument with my coworkers yesterday. You know what? I gotta start this story a lot earlier than this part of the conversation. So, let me step back in time to, 1992, where I really feel like this story begins. I'm in school. I'm, at this point in time, attending, I think it was, Aquila in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. This was before I started doing all my traveling that I've told you about in my other videos. Now, I've had a problem for my entire schooling career up to this point in time. I've already been being treated for social anxiety disorder for several years. The symptom at the time was that I was bizarrely shut in. I had no interest in talking to people. I had no friends. None. No peers that I talked to, with the exception of my cousin, Joe Feyder, who was several years younger than me, so he and I weren't even in the same school at the time. But I saw him outside school, so I was interacting at least with another human being. I felt at the time that I lacked presence. I wanted to talk, but I didn't think anyone would hear me. I still sort of feel that right now, to be completely honest with you. So, school was hard. It was really hard. I basically was a struggling student for much of my schooling career. But Cedar Manor was when it changed. The last day of 6th grade, I'm pretty sure it was, my class, I can't remember anyone from it, I'm sorry, I don't even know the name of my teacher, went on a field trip. We went to a park. Actually, I was just at that park this morning. Let me see if I can find it here in my photo gallery. I took a picture of the place. Answorth Park. We went to Answorth. I'm sorry, my phone got unplugged. I did what I always do when we get there. I get off the bus. I find basically a corner to sit in. I open up my backpack. I pull out my notebook. I start writing. Because that's the only thing in my life that I am certain brings me pleasure. I love writing in my journal. At least I used to. That has recently changed, honestly. So, I'm sitting there at Ainsworth Park. I've got my notebook in my hand. I'm sitting... Actually, it was on a hill. It was the hill that goes down into the baseball diamond. I'll post a picture of it somewhere in this video. I'm approached by a man. Stefan Phil Walker is his name. He arbitrarily, as he sees me sitting there writing my journal, reaches down and slaps me on the back of the head. He says, "Hey, look up!" And I look up. He points. That's my house! His house was in the parking lot adjacent to the park in the Louisiana Courts apartment complex. That is amazing because a couple years later, I would be living in that same apartment. I would be living in what would have been the room parallel to his if he hadn't moved up by then. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So he slaps me on the back of the head and he points to, "That's my house." And he starts talking to me. I am stunned. I am in absolute shock that somebody's talking to me. I am staring blankly. I can't find words. I can't think of anything to say. Because no one has talked to me in 6 years. 6 years, no one has talked to me. So, back then, schools used to give out student directories. I couldn't remember his name, but I remembered where we were, because at the time I was living in the Aquila apartment complex, which was 3 blocks away. The third day of spring break, I pull out my student directory, because that used to be a thing, and I look up the address. I look for anybody who lives near Ainsworth Park. One name. It's 2740 Louisiana Avenue South, apartment number 4. Mercedes Walker and Stefan Phil Walker. I get on my bike and I go there. I knock on the door. The door is answered by an elderly woman who's, as from my perspective, 9.5 feet tall and as wide as a car. I would come to learn later on that wasn't actually the case, but that's the way that it looked to me. And I pull out my student directory and I hold it up over my head and I say, "Is this the address of Stefan Phil Walker?" I don't remember what happened after that. My memories beyond that point are completely blank. But I do remember that I got a phone call several days later from Stefan. He asked me if I ever played the game Super Mario Brothers. No. He asked me if I wanted to. Yeah. So I invited over to his house, and We see each other periodically thereafter. I remember telling him that I feel like I owe you my life. This is hard. I told Stefan, I am going to protect you for the rest of my life. Until I am dead, or unless you tell me otherwise, I am going to be here to protect you, to repay my debt. So, little did I know that this is the point where my mom is going to drag me to Nebraska. I continued to call Stefan for a little while until his number gets changed. We talked periodically, but at this point it's now junior high and I've now moved to 4 states and I have lost contact with him. I fall back into my depression, back into my anxiety. I shut in again. I shut down. There was one other person who I made friends with, but that was until I moved to Wisconsin. That was 1998, maybe, I think, 9. Doing Liebschwager, but that's a story for another time, I think. I graduated early in 2001, and my family life has completely fallen apart. My mom lost her home. She lost her 3rd husband. My sisters, and my brother and I are... Honestly, we're talking about moving into our car as our permanent housing. I will not put up with that. I call my dad. I tell him that I am going to come and stay with him. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to save my next couple of paychecks. I'm going to get my own place. I still am in contact with my cousin Joe. I still remember where he lives because his life has not changed in any way, shape, or form at this point. He still likes hanging out at the collectible card game store, Dreamers Cards and Gifts. So I go there to hang out with him a couple of days. And I bump into somebody who recognized me. Somebody that I don't know why they recognize me. I don't know how they recognize me. I don't know who they were. But I'm assured that it was an acquaintance of mine who was named Justin Robin. I asked him if he knew Stefan. He said yes. I told him I will kill for you if you tell me where he is. He did. And thankfully he didn't ask me to kill anyone. Because I was serious. I still am. I'm still fixated on my oath. I am going to protect Stefan until I am dead, or until he finds somebody, until he tells me he doesn't need me. Fast forward another 10 years, or fast forward a couple of months after that, I've tracked down Stefan, and I've got my own place, and I asked him if he wants to move in with me. He says yes. Things are great for a while. Everything's exactly the way that I kind of want it to be in my life. I took one of my journals and I published it, creating my first book, Red Twilight: A Dawning of Power. I started working on another one, Red Twilight: Long Distance Runners, and then The Storyteller Exodus, consecutively, and I get them all published. I've acquired everything in the world that I ever wanted. I have my best friend. I have my journals published. Then something comes up. He and I have had a couple arguments over the years because, you know, he brought people into the apartment who I don't know, and that scares the shit out of me. But I guess I can live with it. We've played D&D together for a long time. We are about as intimate as we could be without sex being involved. And I know that sounds weird, but it's possible. You can have an emotional attachment to somebody without being physically involved with them. My entire family knows about this, about my oath, about my relationship. I've told everyone. And now is where the story starts getting rocky. So I noticed for a couple days in a row that Stefan's acting just a little bit weird. He's not talking to me. He's sleeping well into the afternoon hours. And this is when I have my anxiety attack. This is about 3 months ago, I guess. Right before I had my oral surgery. I hear talking in the apartment at 4:30 in the morning. I wake up. I search the apartment. I've got my flashlight in one hand. I have this tucked behind my back. USMC K-Bar. This thing's fucking real. I got this from my father when he was in the military. I find nothing. There's nothing in the apartment that would be making the noise that woke me up. There's no one talking. The doors are locked. I've told this story already. So then, I confront him. I ask him if he has any idea what woke me up in the middle of the night. He says he was on the phone. Who? Who was on the phone at 4 o'clock in the fucking morning? He won't tell me. Come home from work a couple days later, and he's on the phone again. I ask him who he's on the phone with. He still hasn't told me. Then, at this point, I can't sleep anymore. You know, I was trying to sleep again, but it wasn't happening. So, we get into another argument. This time it's stupid. It's about going to see a movie. He doesn't want to see a movie that I want to see. He won't tell me a movie he does want to see, even though I'm telling him that, yeah, it's my quarter. I'm paying. What do you want to see? I want to go to the cinema. I haven't been to the cinema in months. I love the cinema. He tells me to leave. I am devastated emotionally at this point. Because those words, in that order, don't make sense to me. So I do. I grab my coat and I go to Lake Victoria. I'll post a picture of that too. I have a picture of Lake Victoria on my phone. He calls me several hours later and asks me where I am. I told him I'm at Lake Victoria. Tells me that I can come home if I want because he didn't understand what I was thinking and I clearly didn't understand what he was thinking. I get home, he's on the phone. I ask him, who's on the phone? He finally tells me. I'm talking to a girl named Rachel. Why were you hiding that? Because I remember how you acted when I introduced you to Ashley. This was 5 years ago, and I walked in from after work at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was somebody asleep on my couch who I didn't know. I was going to do the same thing to her that I did to another colleague of his, where I was going to pick her up and physically evacuate her from my apartment. And make no mistake, this is my apartment. My name's the one on the top of the lease. Anyway, I said I'm going to sit up. I'm going to watch TV until, I feel relaxed. He starts telling me at this point that I don't need to sit up. I can go to bed. Why are you telling me to go to bed? I haven't slept in days already. Tells me that I'm vulturing him, I'm watching him, I'm trying to keep him away from someone. You haven't even told me who you're talking to yet, outside of a name. But eventually I do pry the information out of him. She lives in Texas. She's significantly younger than him. You know what? I'll play ball. Whatever's going on, I want in. Stress levels are getting pretty high at this point, and I start to kind of buckle, and I call up my mom, I call up my sister, I call up my elder sister, I call up my grandma, I call up my younger sister, and I tell them, I don't feel good. Something's wrong with me. I've already told you I was given a bottle of melatonin by my younger sister, which didn't do a damn thing for me. And, eventually, I don't know how it comes to this, but my sister, I think it was my older sister, tells me, Dustin, if there's a girl in your friend's life, your part's done. You can leave. Fucking what? I have 20 years invested in this! I'm never talking to you again. I go talk to my grandmother. My grandmother does nothing to ease my suffering. I ask her, is this right? When a woman comes into a man's life, do all his other relationships come to an end? Yes, Dustin, that's the way it works. Fuck you! We are never talking again. You are a terrible person! So I go to the doctor and I get diagnosed with clinical depression, borderline on chronic depression, and it's a shock that my heart is still beating because I should probably be dead by this point. Because My brain chemistry is completely fucked. So then I go to work and I'm talking to a couple of my acquaintances there. I've already been told by my mother and my elder sister at this point that it's time for me to cash my chips. My work is done. Once a man has decided that he wants a woman, nothing else matters. I'm scared. My life is coming to an end. If Stefan doesn't need me to protect him anymore, I have nothing left. I've done everything in the world that I want to do. Protecting him is all I have. So my coworkers tell me, your oath doesn't matter. I haven't been with a woman in 16 years at least. And even when I was, it had no bearing on my feelings towards Stefan. I can't believe that a woman would have that effect on him. It's terrifying to me. It's horrible. And everybody around me is telling me that's the way it's supposed to be. That is right. You don't need friends when you have sex. So I try talking to this girl, Rachel, after basically twisting his arm into giving me her phone number. And I try explaining to her what I'm telling you right now. I think I was more composed then than I am now, but I'm not entirely sure. And I tell her, I believe that my mother is lying to me. I believe that my grandmother is wrong. I believe that my sister is a terrible person for not understanding my point of view. I feel the same way about my coworkers. But I'm willing to double down. If Stefan wants to be with you, I want to be too. I will take both of you under my wing. And I will serve and protect vengefully. I guess I am an overbearing, vengeful, jealous lover. That's the only phrase I can think of that could possibly describe my feelings. But I lack presence. She didn't hear me. And if she did, she in no way responded to me. And now Stefan's telling me that I'm beating him up emotionally. Fuck yes I am! Because, honestly, even now, being medicated as I am still very certain that my life is here. And if it's not, if everything that I have now isn't what I'm supposed to have in life, isn't what we're supposed to have in life, isn't what we need, isn't what we want, if Stefan no longer needs me, then I have nothing worth living for. It's time for me to cash my chips. I tell Rob this, one of my coworkers, and He says it's not worth it. I say, what's the alternative? Do you want me to murder a bitch? Because, honestly, doesn't sound like a terrible idea. But he assures me that any woman that's involved in this is nothing more than a pawn in this game of his. And it's Stefan that has betrayed me. It's not any woman that has enchanted him and told him to stop loving me. This has gone on for far too long. This got way too intimate, way too intense. I have to wrap this up here. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
I set my sail, fly, the wind it will take me back to my home, sweet home. Lie on my back, clouds are making way for me. I'm coming home, sweet home. I see your star, you left it burning for me. Mother, I'm here. Eyes open wide, feel your heart and it's glowing. I'm welcome home, sweet home. I take your hand, now you'll never be lonely. Not when I'm home, sweet home. I see your star, you left it burning for me. Mother, I'm here.